Right, joining Susan and myself, we've got David. We've also got, of course, here with us...
Angie.
Angie Lau, and of course Anil Gupta.
Yeah.
He's from INSEAD. And let's start off with India, because of course Manmohan Singh is no longer got a majority. Now tell me something. We've got an election coming up next year.
Yes.
They seemingly are muddling through. Is this going to be more paralysis, policy paralysis for the next year and a half? And, you know, is India just losing time at the moment?
I don't think it will be a paralysis in the sense that, you know, the government started to move forward around September, October last year after the change of finance minister. So I think the question really is, at what speed does the government continue the reforms? And I think the likelihood of the government falling before early next year is pretty low. So, you know, it may actually last out its full term. But given the weakening of support, you know, the DMK pulling out, perhaps, you know, we'll know for sure next week whether they come back in or stay out. That the government is a little more shaky, or the coalition is a little more shaky than it was. But I think, you know, it may be difficult to undertake major reforms like land acquisition or the goods and services tax. It's, you know, those things may get stalled. But at the same time, you know, just there are a number of things on the implementation front. You know, so it's not just policies, but policy implementation that the government can do without having to go to the parliament.
Well, what is the effect on the Indian economy? I mean, does this shave off GDP, given that the interest rates were cut for a second time? What happens to India?
Right. The interest rate cuts are helpful, but really the big problems in India are the non-monetary supply constraints.
Because they don't need to, I mean, monetary policy is useless in this environment, because it's all about structural change which is required. Because at the end of the day, all it does is choke off corporate India when you've got high interest rates like this. It does nothing to solve the inflation problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I mean, that's what the RBI governor, he said, that, you know, and of course, I mean, a 0.25% cut is good because it sends the right signal. But in terms of its impact on the economy, the effect is relatively small. You know, what that really requires actually is, you know, the policy reforms.
What about in terms of sentiment for FDI? You've got all these push for reforms, then you have this political instability once again really being an obstacle here. And how does that ensure foreign direct, you know, investment to come through right at the time when India needs it most?
Right. I think, I mean, you know, actually, if you look at FII flows, not FDI flows, the FII flows have remained pretty good. You know, because of course the Indian stock market is you know, pretty down. It's below 19,000, the Sensex right now. And again, you know, if you look at in general the sentiment for reform, you know, whether we look at on the BJP side or the Congress Party side, the sentiment for reform is there. So there is the shakiness of the government, but you know, it's not like one side is pulling back from reform and the other side is advocating reform. So I think what, you know, and if you look at just what the analysts in India are saying, that they are still saying that, you know, the year will probably end with the Sensex about 15–16% higher from what it is now. And I think so the FII is betting on that. Just yesterday, the government was able to you know, get some movement in the parliament on various bills. They're talking about the likelihood that despite the shakiness, they might be able to get bills passed regarding insurance and pension.
Let's bring in China to the mix and perhaps maybe do a small comparison. If you're a foreign business, you're looking at both countries.
Yeah.
Which government is harder to navigate through if you want to get in?
Broadly speaking, India is the harder one to navigate. But at the same and that's because, you know, the Indian government, you know, just like it's schizophrenic, and you know, one arm of the government doesn't necessarily know what the other arm is doing or follow. But at the same time, you know, if you look at from a government point of view and the government functioning point of view or the bureaucratic functioning point of view, clearly China is the better place to be. But at the same time, there are a whole lot of industries, you know, what I say is China 1, which are basically closed. You know, if you're a telecom operator, if you're in banking, if you're in insurance, if you're in you know, so if
you can just take an option off the table.
Exactly. But on the other hand, you know, if you're a Kentucky Fried Chicken or Procter & Gamble or a Coca-Cola, what I call China 2.
I mean, we're seeing the leadership transition this week, but all of this really excitement about reform and how that's going to push forth changes in the equity markets, in, SOEs turning into more support for SMEs. So, where would you put your bet? Would it be India or China next 10 years?
I think, if we look at the SOE reform, I'm not necessarily sure that SOE reform will take place at, certainly there is rhetoric, but, the SOEs are very powerful. And so, in fact, in some sense in China, you now have power factions. Certainly in terms of the capital markets and movement of capital in and out of China, here I'm talking not FDI money, but FII money. That definitely is going to become easier, and the whole thing about converting Shanghai into a global financial center, and I think that's moving.
All right. Well, let's talk also about Cyprus, and you have thoughts as well on Cyprus, saying that it was a major policy mistake to try to tax the smaller depositors, like under 100,000 euros.
It wasn't thought through, was it?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, right?
No, this is completely mindless. I mean, if the Troika went along with it, which itself, they should have anticipated that this is not going to go through the public and the parliament.
And not a single parliamentarian voted for it. I mean, there were so many people abstaining.
In fact, I'm happy that they did not vote for it, because, yes, it creates turmoil, but imagine...
And anybody who did would be committing political suicide.
Number one, but the signals that it sends, you see, that you can get away with it, that would be worse. Now, actually, the signal is that you cannot get away with it, in terms of going back on the trust that you try to create by saying, the deposits below 100,000 euros are insured.
But then, Anil, now we have this March 25th deadline, and, EU finance ministers have warned we're going to cut off your emergency funding if you don't get a plan B in place. Are you concerned as a market watcher?
First, I think there is a better than even chance that the Cyprus government, talking to the Russians naturally, of course, that they will be able to come up with a solution. And in fact, they, I believe, are going to vote on a new proposal from the central bank governor in Cyprus today. So I think the likelihood is reasonably good that they'll come up, but that wouldn't ask the small depositors, if you will, to take a haircut. Now, suppose they don't come up with a solution, then they're out.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much.
There's another one which is being bandied around. There's only going to be a levy on people whose names have ICH in it. So anyway, we'll leave that.
What is OV at the end of it?
And that as well.
OV? Okay.
Yeah. But if you've got OUS, you're fine.
And in fact, that was very much part of the initial plan, I suppose,
I think it was.
from the Troika, and they should have stuck with that plan.
Okay. Anil, I know it took a while for you to get here, but it's good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Anil Gupta, INSEAD.